To some degree, I've struggled with weight all of my life. I've lost weight before on other programs, and I've just never been able to stay committed to it on a long-term basis. I do suffer from fasting-impaired glycemia, which just now starting to be recognized as a precondition to adult diabetes. So the liposuction, can actually help with that. I'm thoroughly convinced that this is going to be a phenomenal success. To some degree, I've struggled with weight all of my life. I was very, very thin growing up. Actually, my parents separated when I was in the 4th grade. Ever since then, I've kind of juggled up and down. When I got married, I weighed about 145 pounds. The day that I delivered Elise, I weighed 246 pounds. Okay, so we're talking, considerable difference here. I weighed exactly the same thing as I weighed when I delivered Elise.
Both of us have put on weight since we've been married. I mean, that's kind of the norm of the American lifestyle. Of course, I would like to look like I looked, 15 years ago. I mean, it's just human nature. People want to be younger. People want to have their hair on their head still, as they get older. People want to be slim and trim.
Sometimes I wonder if people would be more receptive if I looked different. When I was thin, I think people were just nicer. And I think people were more inclined to hold doors open for me. That doesn't happen as much as it used to.
I believe that Alicia's been affected by her weight gain. It's depressing when you look in the mirror and see, those extra pounds that you've worked so hard to try to get rid of and they don't go.
I do suffer from fasting-impaired glycemia, which is just now starting to be recognized as a precondition to adult diabetes. Adult diabetes does run in my family. My coworker had been a patient actually in a preliminary study looking to measure the effects of insulin regulation from large volume liposuction. And I started doing some research looking at the study to try and determine if large volume liposuction can prevent the onset of adult diabetes. We're actually going to do like a road show to all of our press contacts, all of our media contacts. And one of the things that I learned when I started researching liposuction is it actually removes the disproportionate number of fat cells in what appears to be insulin risk or diabetes risk. And so started looking at, all of the health ramifications of, my weight, and really decided that large volume liposuction was a good move for me. Dr. Gysi's doing a study through the National Institutes of Health, and the purpose of it is to determine the potential beneficial impact of large volume liposuction on insulin resistance. Because I live in Washington, D.C., and the surgery is being done in New York, we will stay in New York Wednesday night, my husband and I, and then see Dr. Gysi Thursday morning. I haven't packed yet. Have you?
I've got all my clothes ironed and stacked in the corner.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. Oh, my mother-in-law, Jeannie's going to take care of Elise and Jonathan while we go up to New York.
I have explained to them what's happening. The medical and cementing the life change are clearly the reasons why I am doing this. But I also don't want to be misleading and say that I'm not excited about the cosmetic aspects of this. I don't really know what to expect with the consultation and the surgery. It's one of those things, until you go through it, I don't know that you really know what to expect.
Alicia? Yes. Mr. Moroz? Come on back. Good, how are you? Once you're overweight, you have an increased relative risk for all acute and chronic medical problems. And that will include going on to have diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes, heart attacks. And so this is, in fact, not just simply is it about being overweight and you don't like how you look. What's your target with Dr. Bruner?
I've been using 145.
Really?
But I know that's at the bottom of the weight range for my height, though.
Okay.
But
I think 150, 155 is more realistic. I mean, I kind of like to pick something that's realistic that gets you within normal. Okay, I think that's a really healthy goal. We're talking about right now about 45 pounds. People who haven't seen it, that doesn't. She is someone who's wanted to lose weight, and she hasn't really been able to achieve that goal despite a lot of efforts on her own. And I think that she's doing a good job at it right now, and that she's working with Dr. Bruner and this integrated program that she has going on. So after I examine you, I'll be able to tell about what I'll be able to take off at surgery, but from looking at your pictures, I'm thinking it's going to be around 15 pounds.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 15, so then you're going to have 30 to do on your own after that.
Right, that's what I've been saying.
Half of the people who are overweight approximately have a state called insulin resistance, which is equivalent to being pre-diabetic. And if someone has this condition and is overweight, they are almost nearly destined to go on to have diabetes. The other thing that we talked about, and I know I have your labs, is that your fasting glucose level is high.
Right.
And so we suspect that you have a fasting glycemia, which is really basically another word for impaired glucose tolerance. And it's a pre-diabetic state. All of the patients to date that I've operated on who have insulin resistance or are pre-diabetic have become normal. They are no longer carrying those risk factors. You get 75% of what you're going to see, you'll see at 4 to 6 weeks. Tell everybody, don't buy new clothes for 4 to 6 weeks, because at 2 weeks you see your shape, but you're going to shrink a lot more still. It's just swelling. And then the other 25% will come off over the next 3 months.
So you will be using the ultrasound, because that was one of my questions.
Okay. I'm using internal ultrasound on you.
Okay.
I think it gets out more fat, I get a better technical result, and I get more skin shrinkage with it. And it's just something I've used for a long time, and I like it. And so I think I like it just because I get a great result with it.
So we have to be there at 6 o'clock tomorrow?
Yes. 6 o'clock in the morning, and the hospital probably won't give you your usual call. Don't eat or drink anything after midnight, and you're just going to check into admitting, and then I'm going to meet you in your room where you're spending the night at about 7 o'clock to mark Alecia. And then I'll meet you after the surgery there to let you know.
In her room?
In her room,
Okay.
just to let you know that we've finished and everything went okay.
The surgery?
It'll be about 4 or 5 hours. In the meantime, you can roam the streets of New York. When I do this large volume, we operate on so many different areas of the body, and we're going to turn her in the middle of the case. So the safest way to do that is for her to be intubated, so that the anesthesiologist has absolute complete control over her airway. So we're going to ready to infuse the fluid that has a little bit of the numbing medicine and the epinephrine in here. And this is how we're going to safely remove large quantities of fat. She's preparing the internal ultrasonic equipment, which is, this plugs into the wall, and the electric energy is converted into ultrasonic energy. And this is a titanium probe. And we put this protector on because it gets hot, so this protects the patient. And what this does is it actually liquefies the fat, and it allows me to get out more fat from the patient, and also makes a very nice smooth result. And this is my tool of choice for doing liposuction. So now I'm infusing this fluid that has the lidocaine and the epinephrine in it. That's going to allow me to take her fat out with very minimal blood loss. After we've infused the fluid, we have the ultrasound with traditional liposuction with a regular cannula that has holes, and this is attached to a vacuum pump, and then the fat is evacuated through here. And then I just repeat that process on all the different parts of the body that I'm going to operate on until we have the result that we're looking for. And she has quite a bit of fat to take out, so we want to do this in a very safe, methodical fashion. So now, I don't know if you can see this, I'm not done yet, but you can see that I've started all that fat. You can see here that we're getting the fat out. So on her, I anticipate a 12 to 15 pound fat removal, and she'll go down at least 2 clothing sizes within 4 to 6 weeks after the operation. And that's really the difference between doing large volume liposuction and doing the traditional, where we're just taking out smaller bulges or areas. We're really doing this for size reduction and for weight reduction. When you're doing a large volume liposuction, it's very important for the patients to have a compressive garment afterwards, and in fact, it's so important it's actually part of the operation. There's a lot of fluid that's still left behind in the body, and what the compressive garment does is it helps to force some of the fluid back for the body to absorb. I like them to wear them for 2 weeks pretty strictly, day and night, and then the 3rd week to lighten up, they can wear it for 12 hours during a day, and then after that, they can take them off. Climbing the walls, we're all finished. She did great.
Good.
She's going to be very, very, very happy.
Hey, babe. Feeling any better? Called mom and dad. The kids want to know if they can talk to you later on tonight when you get up to the rooms.
Okay.
You're going to be very happy. It took off 14 pounds. I got a little bit more fat off than I thought I would.
A little bit. Okay. You take a rest. Thanks a lot again.
Toughest part of the recovery, honestly, I'd have to just say I've always had a problem with general anesthesia with being really nauseous afterwards. I thought that it was going to be really, really painful, and it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't acute pain like, oh my goodness, I'm going to die. I just felt like I'd been hit by a truck. You know, it's really, really sore, moving very, very slowly, just very achy, severe, severe ache.
181. Fabulous.
That's 4 pounds.
That's 4 pounds from last visit.
And what is that, 14 pounds since the surgery,
14 pounds since surgery. 14 and a half, actually.
That's actually what she took out.
What she took out.
Liposuction of this variety is not for every patient. The patient needs to be evaluated completely by their bariatric physician. We have to look at other risk factors that the patient might have. And the patient from the outset has to be committed to a physical activity program and an eating program.
Before the surgery, I felt like I was out of touch with what I really looked like. And then I just, all of a sudden, within 2 weeks, I dropped from a 16 to a 14. And you know, I could get into a whole bunch of different clothes that I'd never been able to fit into before. And it was like this big mental boost.
Alicia's results really exceed my expectations. I was amazed at, within several weeks, the marked and noticeable difference in her body shape that she had. Seeing that the body is really changing and that she's getting the shape that she really had wanted has been so encouraging for her.
Ready?
As long as Alicia remains committed to consistency within her food plan and within her physical activity level, she's going to continue to lose weight to get down to her goal weight, which we've set at 165, which will put her body mass index at 25. And she will be able to maintain that because she will maintain all the behaviors that got her there.
She looks fantastic. She really does. I mean, I couldn't believe it after all the swelling went down and she got out of that bodysuit that she had to be in. I couldn't believe it, the change. I see my wife happy, getting results at what she's doing right now with her diet and her exercise. And it makes her feel good. I see her more relaxed. I see her more confident. I see her more happy when she gets dressed. Honey, I like it. At first, I didn't think it was worth it at all because of the pain that she was in. I like it a lot. And she would say, just wait, just wait.
I talked before the surgery about how sad it was, but true, that the world's nicer to thinner people. One day, right after my surgery, when I went back to work, was juggling a box in my hands as I was getting out my keys, and a gentleman that I don't know went out of his way to walk over to me and say, here, can I hold that for you? I couldn't help but think that it wouldn't happen before I had my surgery. The good thing about that was that it remotivated me to, like, you're not there yet. You still have 30 pounds to lose. So I'm focused on doing that now. And to be honest with you, exercise is still a struggle for me. I've done it consistently for months at a time, but never, obviously, for the rest of my life. And, today is the rest of my life. It turned out exactly like I expected it to. I absolutely think I made the right decision. I mean, I knew going into this, I just knew. I had a knowing that going into this, that this was the absolute right thing for me to do. And I still feel very much that way.
Those extra pounds that you've worked so hard to try to get rid of, and they don't go.
I do suffer from fasting impaired glycemia, which is just now starting to be recognized as a precondition to adult diabetes. Adult diabetes does run in my family. My coworker had been a patient actually in a preliminary study looking to measure the effects of insulin regulation from large volume liposuction. And I started doing some research.
Want to be younger. People want to have their hair on their head still, as they get older. People want to be slim and trim.
Sometimes I wonder if people would be more receptive if I looked different. When I was thin, I think people were just nicer. And I think people were more inclined to hold doors open for me. That doesn't happen as much as it used to.
I believe that Alicia's been affected by her weight gain. It's depressing when you look in the mirror and see.
To some degree, I've struggled with weight all of my life. I was very, very thin growing up. Actually, my parents separated when I was in the 4th grade. Ever since then, you know, I've kind of juggled up and down. When I got married, I weighed about 145 pounds. The day that I delivered Elise, I weighed 246 pounds. To some degree, I've struggled with weight all of my life. I've lost weight before on other programs, and I've just never been able to stay committed to it on a long-term basis. I do suffer from fasting-impaired glycemia, which just now starting to be recognized as a precondition to adult diabetes. So the liposuction, you know, can actually help with that. I'm thoroughly convinced that this is going to be a phenomenal success. Okay, so we're talking, you know, considerable difference here. I weighed exactly the same thing as I weighed when I delivered Elise.
Both of us have put on weight since we've been married. I mean, that's kind of the norm of the American lifestyle. Of course, I would like to look like I looked, you know, 15 years ago. I mean, it's just human nature.